From Mamma Mia, welcome to The Spill, your daily pop culture fix. I'm Laura Brodnick.
And I'm Ksenia Lukic.
And coming up on the show today, we're going to be talking about the life and legacy of an incredible Hollywood actress who very sadly passed away over the weekend. Plus, it's been over a week since Taylor Swift's new album came out, and there is so much more to discuss. There has been a lot of fallout with a lot of big celebrities who have been pulled into her orbit, so we're going to get into that. But first,
the Australian version of Traitors is returning for season 3, and we've got a full cast list. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Traitors, this reality TV show. Have you seen it before?
No, I haven't. I'm super aware of how big the UK one's gotten and how it kind of like overtakes their entire like world and conversation, kind of like it with Married at First Sight here when it's at its peak. But I think this is the first time, maybe because of how big the UK one's gotten, this is the first time people have been really invested in the Australian series.
Yeah, so it basically, I didn't know much about it, and I haven't seen the series yet. But what I found out is, so this is the 3rd season. They put it on hiatus back in 2023, and it's kind of returning now for the first time, I think, off the back of the success of the UK version. Now, they've released the cast list. It's going to be airing next year. And I got to say, it's not as exciting as the UK cast list.
Yeah, because the UK cast list has some really big names, right? Especially in the last season.
Let's start with the newest cast list for the Traitors UK, just to get like a bit of a baseline of what we're working with. We've got Stephen Fry, iconic.
Yes.
Alan Carr.
Oh, incredible.
Tom Daly.
So good.
The diver who knits. Love him. And Celia Imrie,
like a world-class actress.
Also Paloma Faith, a singer.
Yeah, and who's known also for just being like hilarious and saying anything that's on her mind.
And they're doing it in a Scottish castle in the Highlands. Like, it is such a huge production. And then we turn to the Australian version. It's a bit sad. It feels a bit like the Temu version.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's a lot of the same faces who are in Australia we have like a lot of people who just do the reality TV circuit and sort of go on like all the different shows that pop up. And I guess that like people enjoy seeing them on screen. But what this list doesn't have is that list of kind of like big name actors, big name comedians, musicians, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, so we've got Kira Maguire from The Bachelor. We've got Cam Merchant from MAFS. Gamble Bro, Real Housewives of Melbourne, Chrissy Marsh, Real Housewives of Sydney. We've got Dicko from Australian Idol and Cosima. What else is throwback? I mean, also from Australian Idol.
That's the interesting thing is a lot of these people haven't been on reality TV for a while. Like we haven't seen Kira Maguire for a while. We haven't seen Cosima for many, many years. Even Dicko hasn't. It's been like a while since he did a stint. So it's a few people resurfacing.
I know. And I just think that it feels a little bit lackluster, but my sense is that because this is the first time they're kind of rebooting it, it's the first season they're booting it as a celebrity version, perhaps after this season, if it is successful, because it's being hosted by Gretel Colleen, who is, famous for her Big Brother hosting back in the day, and I feel like she could probably bring a bit of gravitas to this. I'm hoping that maybe after this season, if it goes well, we can get some more sort of big Aussie stars, and maybe they'll do what like I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here did, and have that one big international star that they spend all their money on. But yeah, look, I am looking forward to seeing it because it does have such a huge cult following in the UK. I might have to sort of go back and watch a UK version and then compare.
Yeah, I guess it all depends on like what the storylines they bring to it, because I don't think a certain level of fame means the storylines are more interesting. It's more just that the UK version are people who are just genuinely wildly interesting to watch, and we usually don't get them in this setting. Like if you see those clips of like, not to spoil anything, but like Alan Carr like portraying one of his best friends on that show. Like that's just iconic TV. It's not their fame level. So like this Australian version might be great. I think the American one, it was like Tom Sandoval coming in and having this big redemption arc, and people got very invested in that. And yes, he's famous, but he's not movie star famous. It was just like, and his like interactions with like Chriselle and the other people, it was just good TV because of the storyline. Yeah. So maybe this will be good, but it's hard to say until we see it.
It seems that this is going to be airing next year. I don't have an exact air date, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
So over the weekend, Sunday, our time here in Australia, a lot of people woke up to the very sad news that legendary actress Diane Keaton had sadly passed away at the age of 79.
It was such a shocking – it was like the first thing I saw when I woke up on Sunday morning. I actually audibly gasped because I was so sad about it. She was such a fixture in, the Hollywood culture, and so many incredible stories about her life. She's just such an icon.
Yeah, so she's someone that we've talked about many times on this podcast just because I guess that she's starred in so many iconic movies and there are so many behind-the-scenes stories that have made up the fabric of Hollywood over time. But she appeared in 60 films during her career,
Wow.
performed in more than like 20 television roles, was also a very well-regarded, critically acclaimed director and had 4 Best Actress nominations, and she won in 1977 for Annie Hall, which was one of her very big first iconic roles and one of those movie roles that has stayed with her, not just because of how much the fashion in the movie kind of mirrored this iconic look that she always had over the years with the suits and the jackets and the ties and the hats and this very kind of like quirky androgynous look that she carried through her career, but also because some of the dialogue was based on her and that was her first big collaboration with Woody Allen.
Annie Hall is kind of that quintessential Woody Allen film, and it really is that neurotic New Yorker and this love story. It's very quirky. And Diane Keaton was made famous in that movie she actually dressed herself in that movie. And that's where we get that, baggy khaki pants and oversized bowler hats and, suiting. And it really was such a important part of culture.
Yes, so that was sort of as her style over the years. That she became just as well known for her movie roles as she did for the way she did interviews and the way she sort of moved through the world. She was almost this anti-fame, anti-Hollywood person, which for a lot of other people would see them kind of move out of the conversation, especially as they got older. But for Diane Keaton, it made her almost more popular with a new generation of fans. It seemed to make her more popular in Hollywood because she would just go on talk shows or do press runs and just say whatever she wanted. And not in a say whatever she wanted bad way, but she just seemed to be so out of the world of Hollywood despite being one of our biggest stars. So she was in, she starred in films such as we said, Annie Hall. A lot of people know her from Something's Gotta Give, the Godfather movies. Personally, I mean, I loved her in so many movies, but personally I'd have to say The First Wives Club and The Family Stone, which is going to be hard for us all to watch at Christmas this year.
The First Wives Club is that song from that movie is the anthem of feminism. Yeah, I absolutely love that movie as well. I think I loved her I love The Godfather. I do think it's a pretty incredible role for her, and that's kind of where she started. But for our generation, it probably was that Family Stone, Something's Gotta Give. That's kind of where we would have mostly seen her.
Yeah, it's interesting how she was never like positioned as a Hollywood power player, but because of like the film she was in. Like The First Wives Club was such a huge hit and it became such a big moneymaker at the box office at a time when these kind of female-led films were still seen as a little bit of vanity projects, especially at the time, because if anyone hasn't seen that movie, which it holds up so well.
Yeah, it does.
It's one of the few movies where even now, like over 30 years later, you're like, oh, it still hits so hard. And the lead actresses were Goldie Hawn, Bette Midler, and Diane Keaton, who were all in their 40s and 50s at the time. And that was also seen as like, who's going to watch a movie about women that age? And that it became this huge success. And it's got like Maggie Smith in it, Sarah Jessica Parker, Victor Garber, all these big names. And of course, Hollywood, when there's like a big hit like that, the first thing they think is like, how can we make a sequel? And all the actresses, so Diane Keaton, Goldie Hawn, and Bette Midler all banded together and said they would absolutely do a sequel because they became such good friends on that movie. And then they went to the studio and said, well, since it's made this much money, then can we get a pay rise for the second movie? That's fair because everyone else is getting a pay rise, the studio, the directors. And they basically said no. So all the women banded together and they said, we know you love this movie, but we will not make a sequel unless you pay us what we're worth. And Diane Keaton has always stood by that and saying like, it's not about the money, it's about the respect in the industry.
Yeah, and we know that, women have been paid less in Hollywood and everywhere else, but that's kind of that first time of banding together, showing their power and saying, no, you need us, we are going to do it. And she was like that though, I feel. She really had that sense of power and strength and, righteousness as well, I feel like. Like, she was always like wanting to be on the right side of things, morality, you know?
Yeah, I feel like especially like in her like 60s and 70s and coming into like those last decades of her career where she was, you know, still working quite a bit and still doing the press rounds, she was kind of known as being like a bit more eccentric. You know, she'd go on the Ellen show and talk about how much she loves Justin Bieber, and then Justin Bieber would come out to surprise her and she's fangirling and throwing her hands up in the air. Or she would go on Jimmy Fallon, and this is how un-Hollywood he was, and he read like a list of people who had shown up to this event to honor her. And he's like, are these people your friends? And she was like, well, no, they're work friends. Like, I don't hang out with them. In a nice way. She's like, I know what real friends are, and like, these are my colleagues. And he's like, so Meryl Streep's not your friend? And Diane Keaton's like, well, she doesn't call me, so no, I don't spend any time with her. And he's like, Sarah Silverman? She's like, yeah, she's nice. She's a woman, you know? And he's like, yeah, I know, because he's dated her for ages. And then like Reese Witherspoon, she was like, oh, I only knew when she was a child. Like, she's wonderful, but she's not my friend. Like, everyone in the world in Hollywood wanted to be Diane Keaton's friend, and she was all like, just very much like, you're all wonderful people, but I'm not clout chasing by going after you. And so she kind of had and like the way she dressed and everything, very eccentric, but was also a bit of like not a ball buster, that's like a very 90s term, but there's a story of how when she was dating.
My dad uses that term.
It's what I think when
term in ages.
It just seems to suit her.
Ball
like
buster.
She's like a ball buster. She's like a broad. She's like a she dropped
I
out of.
heard that phrase in so long.
I just think when you hear about her life story, like she was, I think, one of 4 kids. Her mum was a stay-at-home mum. Her dad worked like a 9 to 5. There was like she was one of many kids, but she always kind of wanted to be an actress. And I think she was going to college, and then she dropped out to go and be a full-time actress, and kind of worked her way up in all of these like theatre roles before she got her first big breakout movie role. But there's this story of for someone who was like kind of, we always talk about like Carrie Bradshaw being the ultimate single girl, but I actually feel like Diane Keaton is the ultimate single girl, because she had a lot of these very long-term relationships with like Al Pacino and like Warren Beatty and Woody Allen and everything, but she always said that she would never ever get married, and that she just wanted to be a single woman, and that's how she was at her happiest. But there's a story of when she was with Al Pacino, and he was in all these big movies, but like there was something about his manager and his accountant not saving any money for him and not investing it, and he was running out of money, and Diane Keaton basically got on the phone with like his accountant and was yelling at them to kind of fix his finances, pay him what he's worth, fix things up. And like Al Pacino, who at the time, like everyone's like, he's like the god of Hollywood, the most powerful man, but he like cowered behind Diane Keaton, like ripping his team apart, and kind of spoke about the fact that she was the one who fixed his life and finances while they were together.
Scarface, you know, the pinnacle of masculinity.
Yeah.
You know, cowering behind her.
Yeah.
One of the stories I loved that was also like in that dating is she actually dated Steve Jobs for a while, which I didn't realize, and I thought that was so funny. And she broke up with him, and the quote that she gives as to the reason is he'd start saying things about the computer, and I'm going, I have no interest. Do you believe it? Like she basically was like, he was too much of a nerd, so I just ditched him. She could have been, you know, the partner of this Apple CEO. But she's like, no, I don't like computers. You're a bit of a nerd. Like I'm going to go.
Yeah, there's that story that she talks about like when she was in high school, and some guy, and this is a weird thing for a fellow classmate to say, but I guess it was of a time, said to her something like, oh, Diane, you're going to make the best wife. And she said in that moment in high school, she just thought to herself, I don't want to be a wife. That's not what I see for myself. That's not what's going to make me happy. And she kind of like clung to that all through like her fame and like all of these very famous, like gorgeous men pursuing her. But then in her 50s, she adopted 2 children, a son and a daughter, and was like very, very close to them. You can see her like as they kind of became adults, her like walking down red carpets, hugging them, and like her at events with them, and her talking about how like adopting these children had been like such a beautiful thing for her. But she always pictured herself making a family that way and never being married, and not in like an angry or dismissive way. And not that she'd even had her heart broken. She was like, this is just my life. And I know that doesn't seem like a big deal now for a woman to say I'm not going to get married, but 40 years ago, 30 years ago, that's a huge deal.
I was going to say that. Like if we think about when she's doing all of this, was 70s and 80s where women were still in some cases not allowed to go and get a mortgage without their husbands co-signing it. So we're talking about making a stance in a time where that's not the norm. So the fact that she could still do that in that time and stay strong in that and not apologize for it either. And I think that's quite impressive.
Yeah, so it's just such an incredible legacy, and you can see from all the people in Hollywood who are posting this amazing tributes to her, but even more just so like when you see real people sharing like their favorite movie moments and all the moments we grew up with, like even like the two Father of the Bride movies and all those sorts of things that are like, I think to have an actress who's in all of these dramatic roles but is in also so many of people's comfort movies is such a huge thing. So yes, very sad, but such an incredible life that she lived.
Vale, Diane Keaton.
So it's been over a week now since Taylor Swift's new album, The Life of a Showgirl, came out. And since then, there's been, over 1 million headlines around it. It's done millions and millions of streams. It's broken so many records. I believe at the moment there's maybe 28 iterations of the album that you can go out and purchase if you want to support the Taylor Swift billionaire empire. It really is taking over the world. And even though it's been a week and people are sort of expecting that potentially some of the headlines around it would start to die down, what we're seeing now is it kind of pop up in a few different celebrity stories that are wrapped up in this album launch.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously covered it last week. You guys did 2 really wonderful episodes on the album and the movie. And, I think that we're sort of settling into it. We've seen some of the reviews. We're starting to see a little bit of negativity come through. And I think that's to be expected after like the big blow up and excitement, and then you start to kind of get those little stories in between.
Yeah, I guess everyone's waiting for any kind of celebrity name that was wrapped up in it to say something. I guess one of the big ones is that everyone was sort of thinking if like Olivia Rodrigo would post anything or say anything, and because people think this Taylor Swift song Father Figure was about her, and she hasn't said anything at the time, which I think is fair enough because she's not doing a big tour at the moment. She's not up on stage. It would seem wildly out of place for her just to post something, especially because there was legalities in that of Taylor Swift having a writing credit on her song after she released it. A lot of eyes have been on Blake Lively in quite a renewed way, which is interesting because she's been a little bit out of the headlines ever since the last kind of big blow up of her court case with Justin Baldoni. And it's almost interesting that now that we kind of think that Taylor Swift hasn't broken up their friendship and that she and Blake Lively are still very close, which it kind of goes against what we've thought for the last couple of months, just because in the song Cancelled, Taylor obviously sings about liking her friends cancelled and being the person that is there to kind of like help them through this. And she's also wearing Blake Lively's jewelry in a lot of the images. And I've seen people say like, oh, but she could have done that ages ago. Like albums take a long time to come out. It's like this issue has been going on for like over a year between her and Blake. There's no way that like a billionaire would be releasing photos just because she can't be bothered to reshoot them, or she can't be bothered to like, it'd be so easy to edit out a bracelet.
And I feel like she's so intentional with her creativity that like she's not going to just like, that's not a mistake.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the last lot of headlines that have blown up in the last week are around Blake Lively's contract for It Ends With Us being released to the world as part of her lawsuit with Justin Baldoni. And there were all these bits in there around like things that have happened behind the scenes. And obviously Taylor's all wrapped up in the lawsuit for that. And there was all these details from the contracts around different like bonuses she would get if she was nominated for an Oscar, different bonuses she would get for box office. And I feel like the tides kind of turned on Blake Lively a little bit. Is like once upon a time when people thought Taylor hated her, they might have really attacked her for that, or the headlines would have been really negative. But this time around, all this information came out around her contract, and obviously she didn't get any sort of critical recognition or Oscar nominations for that movie. Like the movie was quite panned. And
I love that there was a clause in there for that though.
Yeah, I think that
Just
is
in
kind
case.
of standard. Yeah, it's like you get like $20,000 for like a nomination, $100,000 for a win, all these sorts of things, which I think is fairly standard for a lot of actors' contracts. If you get an award nomination, you get an extra lot of money.
Wonder what you get if you get a Razzie.
Yeah, they'd probably deduct money from your account.
You get a fine if you get a Razzie.
Yeah. But I think like, with this, it was kind of like interesting how like now that Blake Lively looks back in like the Taylor Swift fold, it's kind of changed how fans see her a little bit.
Well, that's because Taylor's army is so influential and they run social media.
Yeah.
Like they are so like you don't F with the Taylor army, you know. One of the ones that I kind of picked up on was Charli XCX in her SNL performance with, the T-shirt that she was wearing. the Kansas City t-shirt. And a lot of fans were speculating that this was a bit of a slight back at Taylor after her song Actually Romantic. So we don't have any confirmation of that, but it does seem to be that this feud is still continuing, and there does seem to be tension between the two of them.
Yeah, so this happened on the Saturday Night Live episode this past weekend with Amy Poehler hosting. So Role Model came out and performed his viral hit at the moment, Sally When the Wine Runs Out. And what he's been doing at all his concerts is bringing out mostly like a famous woman, a surprise woman to be like the Sally. Like Hilary Duff did it recently and it's been a whole thing. So when he did on SNL, there was such a build up, and like that was probably the section everyone thought was going to get like a big kind of viral life and people would share the clip. So it was a big deal of who the Sally was going to be on this night. And then Charli XCX came out and there was like a huge reaction to that. But then she's wearing like a black skirt and a t-shirt that says Max's Kansas City. And obviously Travis Kelce, who is Taylor Swift's fiance, if no one's heard that news, plays for Kansas City football team.
Chiefs.
The Chiefs, yes. A team I didn't know existed until I heard about him, but that's fun. And yeah, some people are thinking that it's sort of like a call out to Taylor. I don't think it's that. It actually made me think that the fallout from that album is kind of like that they're having like a fun little game back and forth. Like I didn't feel malicious at all.
I mean, look, I think people can definitely take it. There's a lot of different ways you could take just a t-shirt.
But that's what they like, I think.
But she would also know that people are going to pick up on that.
Yeah.
So maybe she's just playing along and having a bit of fun with it.
I think she's just having a bit of fun with us.
I feel like she's got that kind of personality where it wants to kind of be a bit cheeky, you know?
Yeah. I just think there's two easy ways to read the Charli XCX Taylor Swift feud, if that's what you want to call it. And it would all be contingent on like what's happening behind the scenes, which we don't know. All we know is that Charli released the song Sympathy is a Knife, which was very much thought to be about Taylor, but it's very much about how she sees her as this like superstar she can't compete with and her own like feelings of self-doubt. And then when Taylor Swift released Actually Romantic, and that came out, and like the first line is thought to be about Charli, where she says, I heard you call me boring Barbie when the Coke's got you brave, is kind of like a call to like the whole Charli XCX kind of brat girl summer and the persona she has there. And the lyrics of that song are very much around like, it's sweet that you think about me, but I don't think about you at all, which could be really cutting if there's like a real riff behind the scenes. But it also just could be two musicians who kind of fuel their careers by people like reading between the lines of their songs and reading between like the secret Easter eggs and the moments and stuff. And then Charli doing the t-shirt is kind of like a fun, cheeky way as like a nod to her without like keeping the feud going.
Yeah, I kind of tend to agree with you there because I feel like this is beneficial for both of them. Not like Taylor needs more PR, but this is like it's keeping them in the headlines. We're staying relevant. You know, Charli XCX has got to release new music and Taylor's released a new album and everybody's got to make their money. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this was just something that they were kind of playing along with a little bit more.
Yeah.
But did you see the Lewis Capaldi bit on Graham Norton?
Yeah, and I did. And the thing is, like, at the end of the day, like, all of these, like, not so much the Blake Lively stuff because I don't think she wants any more publicity for that, but the Taylor, the Charli XCX, and the Lewis Capaldi of it all, like, it is kind of just getting us all talking about their albums, which is kind of interesting because you think that when you get to be that successful that you don't need to be doing all these little like almost like stunts and like secret messages and all these things back and forth.
Yeah.
But Taylor Swift herself said on the Zane Lowe podcast this week, she's like, if in the first week of my album relaunch, if you're saying my name or the name of my album, then you're helping. So I think she still thinks that old school thing of like all publicity is good publicity and just get it out there.
Yeah.
And then it's having like a flow-on effect from like her music to Charli XCX's music. And yeah, the Lewis Capaldi thing has kind of blown up a little bit. So they were on the Graham Norton couch together.
Yeah, so they were on the Graham Norton couch together the day that The Life of a Showgirl was released. Cillian Murphy was also there. Graham asks Lewis about his new EP or his new music coming out. And Lewis kind of like darts his eyes around and goes, oh, I was told I wasn't allowed to talk about that. And everyone looks really shocked. And he goes, oh, fuck it. And he talks about this new EP that he's launching later this year called Survive. And people kind of are looking at this clip and looking at Taylor's face and speculating that perhaps Taylor's team has said, you can't talk about your music because it's all got to be about Taylor.
Yeah.
I don't want to get in trouble here because I feel like I'm going to get attacked. So I'm going to be very careful with what I say. I did look at her face and she did look a bit like, don't you just say that this is Taylor. Like I got a little bit of that vibe.
It's hard to say. Watching that Graham Norton appearance back, like on surface level, it's just like all of these cute celebrities sitting on the couch together and they're all joking and Taylor's talking about making bread and Cillian Murphy's sitting next to her just with a polite smile on his face.
He looks so bored the entire time.
He's smiling at everyone. It depends which clip you watch because he does have resting like angry face.
Resting dick face?
But a little bit, yeah. But he just looks like so happy that no one's talking to him, I think. Like he's so thrilled when everyone else on the couch talks and he doesn't have to. And you've got like Jodie Turner-Smith and then Taylor Swift's talking and it's a whole big thing. And then on the surface level, it looks so cute and sweet. But then the more times you watch or the more you hear about that taping, it just sounds like the most like crazy controlled thing. So first of all, Taylor's there and she's like chatting away, looking really, like she's just thrilled to be there on the couch. She's like, I'm just one of you guys. We're all the same level. And then Graham Norton like plays a bit of her song and they're all bopping along. And it looks a bit weird. And then we've since found out, well, the allegation is because you know how Taylor Swift keeps her songs under such lock and key that even when they were filming the music video to go with the movie and to go with the release, the dancers are just dancing to clicks through all the songs because they're not allowed to hear the music beforehand in case anyone leaks it, even though these are her tour dancers that she's been on the road with for 2 years. But, you obviously can't trust anyone.
Crazy.
And apparently in that clip and Graham Norton where they're all bopping along, the song's not playing. So when you see Cillian Murphy like swaying to the Fate of Ophelia, he can't hear anything. And like obviously Taylor Swift's so good at it because she just does this all the time. So she's like clicking along and Graham Norton's like, that's why all their heads are bopping out of sync because they're not listening to anything.
I love that.
So like that's how controlled the set was. And then yes, Lewis comes out and if anyone hasn't seen Lewis Capaldi, like he's just, I would just say like just Google him and just watch all of his interviews.
He's so funny and sweet and I just adore him.
He's the funniest person ever with the best voice in the world and he just says whatever he wants. Like the amount of times on morning shows they've had to like bleep him and censor him because he'll just start swearing.
He's got that classic, like he's just got such a classic humour about him and like I love when he tells stories about him and Ed Sheeran getting really drunk together and like falling asleep on the side of the road. Like he just seems like such a chill dude, which is why I feel like the way that he was darting around, he was like, oh no, I've been told by Taylor's team and this is me. Whatever, I don't care. Like he's playing it off.
Yeah, it's so hard because that's the one where like there's so many other things that you hear about, like especially like with the fallout of Taylor Swift's album where I think like, oh yeah, that 100% happened. Like this person said this or this person had said this. This is one where like I just don't know because yes, Lewis Capaldi kind of sits down on the couch and he like apologizes to Jodie Turner Swift for swearing in front of her baby last time they met and all these sorts of things, and then just goes on to say that the album's coming out, even though he was told not to say it. And Graham Norton's like, oh God, he's singing like a canary. And everyone thinks that it was a caveat of Taylor Swift being on the couch, that there would be no announcement like that. But I don't know because Lewis Capaldi, like he hasn't really said anything, but there's been like whispers and like anonymous sources over the years that have said like his label and his management sometimes don't do his rollouts very well and they'll tell him to keep things secret when he should be promoting them go too early. I think there was a thing a few years ago where his team announced his new album on the day that Taylor Swift's team had announced her album and she had done a big rollout, so his got wiped out. And they're like, and his team, like the pushback from fans was like everyone knows that all other artists hold when Taylor Swift's doing a release. Like apparently she and Beyonce have a blood pact that they never release music at the same time because they're the only two people who would cancel each other out, but everyone else just holds their music. And even Robbie Williams, like huge star, has like confirmed this week that he has held his album, so it's not competing with Taylor because all her songs come out, she releases, which people have thoughts about. Is she just being greedy? Is she trying to knock other artists out? Or is she just, so excited by all these different albums? She releases 28 variants. So not only do all her songs go to the top of the charts, the release of multiple albums also means that she like breaks every record for the week.
She's such a juggernaut that you just kind of, you got to leave it there, give it a couple of weeks and then go. But so maybe that's why they told him don't do it now because it's just going to get overshadowed. But it's actually kind of done the opposite since he did do it because now people are speculating that he's been stopped by Taylor's team.
Yeah, now this story is out there that Lewis Capaldi was potentially like Taylor was trying to like take him down and her team was trying to silence him and he pushed back. Again, I don't know if that's a story, but it's kind of worked out really great for him because now that clip of him being like, oh, fuck it, I'm just going to say it has gone viral in a way that like an album announcement would have gone viral amongst his fans, but it wouldn't have been the front page of every news outlet.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's this big feud because I think Lewis Capaldi is obviously great friends with Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran and Taylor Swift famously have a great relationship. So I feel like there's probably a bit of love there and support of each other's music. But Lewis Capaldi has kind of, he's taken a little bit of a break. He's, been recovering from some mental health issues and his Tourette's, and the support from his fans is so strong because he is such a sweet guy. I just don't feel like that. And I do think there's crossover between Taylor fans and Lewis Capaldi fans. And I don't think that Taylor, I don't know, I just don't feel like she would do that to him. But maybe it was like said in a nice way.
Yeah, maybe to her
she
team
did
being
look
like,
a bit shifty though.
Yeah, well, maybe she was like, what do you, when he says, I was told I was on to say, she goes, as if like something terrible has happened. But also she's very reactive on those couches. Like anyone says anything and she's like, because I think she's trying to show like, and she would have to because everyone's looking at her and wondering how she's going to act out of the celebrities. And if she does anything that looks like she's giving them shade, then she would get called out more than them. So I think sometimes, and I kind of get it, like in that position, Taylor Swift has to overreact very like she's listening and she's invested so she doesn't look like she's above it. But yeah, it's been really interesting as like this like kind of second week of the Life of a Showgirl, the fallout and all the different celebrity pieces. Like everyone's looking to Charli to see what she'll say. Everyone's looking to Olivia Rodrigo, even Sophie Turner because they think that she's also mentioned in the cancelled song. And then you have the offshoots of celebrities who have kind of picked a side in the whole Charli Taylor thing. Like Megan Statler, the actress from Too Much, who has been doing.
We love her.
She's so funny. She's been, if you haven't seen her Instagram account, she's been wearing that blonde wig she was wearing for Too Much press, and she's doing like pretending to be Taylor and doing like a parody song where she releases a follow up where she and Charli XCX are friends. And then Julia Fox has been reposting all these TikToks in support of Charli and saying that Taylor's basically being a bit of a mean girl. So all these celebrities are picking sides, but it's all in the fun of the album.
I love it.
I mean, look, this is what they wanted when they put like secret messages and stuff in lyrics, is they want people to have these conspiracy theories.
How much longer do you feel like the hype around the Life of a Showgirl will go on?
I've got at least another 2 weeks of hard hype.
As an insider and a Taylor, you did 2 eps on Taylor.
No, my whole life has been Taylor at the moment. I think we've got another 2 solid weeks of all these conspiracy theories, and then it will just depend what other music videos she releases, apparently she's going to make Taylor's going to make another big announcement this week. We'll see that's what that's going to be. If it's another vinyl, I'm just going to be like, get out of here. We don't need another one. If it's a tour or an event or something like that, great news. It might be that her Life of a Showgirl launch party movie is coming to streaming. Like, we don't know, but I'm sure that will set off another round of gossip and stories.
She's got a plan.